I paid £75 for this supercritical beaded Piba midsole, racing caliber foam, carbon fibre plate, unbelievable weight. This thing is incredible. So welcome back to another running shoe review. This is the Li Ning Feidian Challenger 5. I think that's how you pronounce it. What an incredible shoe this is. I picked this up for £75 or just under, which could well be a bargain of the year. This thing is unbelievable, and I'm going to be sharing how I've tested it, give you guys a quick technical overview of what I know of the shoe, and then give you my first impressions and share a shoe that this is extremely similar to that I know so many of you guys love. And you can thank James Copeland for this one. He recommended I try it. I've never had luck with Chinese shoe brands in my size. This is the only one that they stock in a UK 13. I grabbed it, I've tested it, and I'm absolutely delighted. Let's get straight into this. So we'll kickstart with how I tested the shoe. I got it out on a first workout earlier this week. It was 4x3K. I'm in the taper phase for my marathon. So the goal for that session was simply a case of ticking off the first one, really nice and controlled, and keeping all the efforts basically sub-threshold. Managed to do that for the first three whilst cutting the paces down. Feeling really good, feeling really fit, feeling really fresh, and the shoes just worked with me. The final rep was again a little bit quicker. I just kind of tipped over that threshold and pushed a little bit more, and it felt really good whilst I was out there. That was the first run, but I didn't want to just kind of jump on here and say, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I wanted to take it on something slightly faster, so I've got a second session done in it this week, which was 8x1K. Now normally I'd be doing 10 to 12 to 15 of that, depending on where I've been in the marathon block. As I said, I'm tapering, so I only had 8x1K to do. I kept the first four sub-threshold, very similar paces to as I've done throughout the block. Gave myself a license to push on the next two, and then really let rip on the final two, clocking in sub 16-minute 5K pace for that final rep. And this thing came alive. Now sometimes I'll jump on here and give a first run video. Sometimes I'll do a first impressions where I like to get a couple of runs done. As I said earlier, very tempted to jump on after that first session and say just how good it was, but I did want to put it through its paces. This isn't actually a racing shoe. This is the Speed Day shoe. They have a racing shoe in their lineup, which I can't get in my size, nor can I get the Daily Trainer, which I'll recommend at the end. And again, that recommendation comes from James. However, the weight on this one and the way it's set up really does mean that it could be a good Speed Day shoe. Not gonna lie, could easily run a marathon in this thing. Before we get deeper into my first thoughts on the shoe, let's go through a quick technical overview of what I can find on the shoe. So it's a UK size 13. I went true to size, absolutely perfect. This is a thinner shoe, so I would recommend that if you have a wider foot, just go with caution on it. I have a relatively wide foot. I do fit okay in the shoe. It's got that kind of Vaporfly, slip your foot in, it really hugs the foot nicely. That Vaporfly 1 and 2, I should clarify, not 3 and 4. Very nice, snug, secure fit. Would fit Tim Gross's feet really well, as he has a much narrower foot than mine. So just bear that in mind. The profile's just a bit more slimline. In terms of a weight on this shoe, 265 grams or 9.3 ounces. We're talking less than 10 grams heavier. I think it's about 7 grams heavier than the Puma Deviate Nitro Elite 3. A lot of my racing shoes come in and around the 250 mark. Not the really, really lightweight newer ones, but let's say the racing shoes from last year and beyond. So it really does fall into that category, which is incredible. And as for a stack height, I have no idea. I've seen online, we're talking like a 6 to 8 millimeter drop, sorry, a 6 or an 8 millimeter drop in and around the mid to high 30s in the back here, dropping down to late 20s or 30 flat. I've seen different reports. Leaning, I cannot find any information on, so I'm going to guess in and around there. And as always, we'll start at the back of the shoe, talk about the heel counter, ankle collar, tongue, lacing, upper, midsole, and finish with the outsole. So we have a Boom Fiber upper, which is an engineered mesh. It's written here just in case we didn't know, and that's an engineered mesh upper that runs all the way around. And when we come to the shoe that this is very similar to, this is the one difference. So it's a very nice upper. It does hug the foot really nicely. We do also have a gusseted tongue in here, so that again adds to the wraparound feel. And the ankle cut under here is really nice. The heel flare flares away. You can see here just that kind of ridge here where the materials collide, and it just kind of flares away way, so that's really nice. The ankle collar section is really good. We've got padding in and around here, which is great. The tongue is paper thin, but as I said, it is gusseted. There's a bit of padding as you get a bit further down the tongue, but as soon as you get up to this top bit, as you expect, and as you see with a lot of shoes, it is paper thin. The lacing is standard. There is nothing fancy going on here. You just get a solid lockdown, and I think sometimes brands maybe try and change things up in and around here. Is there a need? Not really. We're looking for a shoe that we can lock down nicely and run fast in at the end of the day if we're looking for a speed shoe, and so they've done a great job there. Now, as I mentioned earlier, that boom fibre upper does wrap nicely to the top of the foot. It is a slimline profile shoe. The toe box isn't necessarily narrow. Where it narrows in particular is in this midfoot area, so that's where you have to bear in mind. I have had a few shoes in the past where sometimes my foot kind of bulges out the side a little bit here. I kind of feel like it's doing that, but not too much in this shoe. It's just something to bear in mind if you are a wider foot person. If you're a narrow foot, it will be absolutely perfect. A few graphics and overlays going on and around the shoe on the medial and lateral side, but otherwise a very simplistic upper. This is where the magic is though. Supercritical beaded PBA EVA midsole, and I believe it's spliced in two. I have no idea if the densities are different on top and bottom, above and below the carbon plate. Usually when we see a spliced midsole, we might have different densities or we might not, but what I can confirm, it is the same material being used. So it is still that supercritical beaded PBA EVA, which we've seen in some really good racing shoes in the past. We'll come to that shortly. And it will bring a very familiar ride if you've tested a certain few shoes. Really responsive, lovely and bouncy. You get a wonderful toe off sensation in here. It is an aggressive rocker, but it is a late stage. It's not an early stage, so you don't feel like you're being put on your toes too early. It is on the later end, but when you do go through, you can really toe off and get a good spring. That is fantastic. We've got Li Ning's GCM grip, which covers the majority of the shoe here. We've got the exposed carbon plate in the middle here, as you can see. This grip I'm not sold on. It feels good right now. It feels okay. I don't have any issues. I will say I haven't tested it in wet conditions yet. I will wait to see how it feels. The only reason I say I'm a bit hesitant on it is because when I'm doing my reps, I'll go, I'll do the rep, I'll jog, and as I turn, I just noticed that I don't quite have as much traction as I'm turning as I would normally. I'm a bit hesitant and worried to do any sharp cornering in it. It feels okay now. It's just going to be a case of how quick it wears down or not. So jury's out on that at the moment. It feels absolutely fine. The reason the jury's out, as I said, is just because I don't know how long it's going to last feeling okay. Watch this space. So with all that out of the way, how did the Li Ning Challenger 5 hold up on these sessions? Well, what a magical find this has been. So I posted this on Instagram to say I bought it, I'm testing it, £74.80 something p, which is just ridiculous for a running shoe of this caliber. When we've got racing shoe midsole, a carbon fiber plate, you just cannot buy Western brand shoes at this price. Absolutely unreal. And a lot of you had a lot of interest in it, asked me where I got it from. Going to be honest with you, I bought it from AliExpress. I found a discount code, so it tends to retail on there for £89. Got a 15% discount code, once again thanks to James, which I'm very grateful for. So yeah, I paid less than £75. My credit card details are probably on the Chinese black market right now. I'm not too worried. There's fraud prevention on there, so we'll see what happens there. What I loved about this shoe, more so being blown away by it, not necessarily by the performance, because the performance was incredible for a shoe of this price, but that's exactly it. I was blown away because I only paid £75 for a shoe of this. Now, if you run in this shoe, what you will experience is you'll experience a really solid, it will throw you back a couple of years to racing shoes. And I'll dig out the one that I'm really homing in on that I think it's a good comparison to. I think that the new racing shoes are really kind of a level up now, and you will notice that when you run in this shoe. You'll just be blown away by the fact that it feels so good for £75. And I don't know why I'm comparing it to racing shoes when this is not their racing shoe, although it could be used as one. It is so comfortable. Honestly, having tested the Asics Sky Tokyo, the Adidas Pro 3, both the Pumas, this marathon training block in my sessions, writing the Fast R3 off because of the issues I had after my half marathon. The Deviate Nitro Elite 3, mainly because of the heel rub and I just don't want to risk it. And then of course I've got the Pro 3, which is my safe choice, which is what I'm probably going to go for in Abingdon. Well, not probably, I am going to go for the Metaspeed Sky Tokyo, which is good, but it hasn't blown me away. I'm going to be honest with you, I would probably put this as a second choice to run the marathon in behind the Adidas. I'd actually probably go for it over the Asics, more so because I feel like I get more from the shoe than I do from the Asics. The Asics is a great shoe, it feels fantastic, but it doesn't necessarily give me that pop and energy return that I'm looking for in a carbon plated shoe. And that might be because I got the Sky instead of the Edge, and so it's a less aggressive plate, and a few of you recommended I try the Edge, which is fair enough. I might have a different tune if I tested that one, but this is honestly incredible. It's such a great shoe for the value. Now, as I said, when you're comparing other super shoe foams, the Puma is better. Lightstroke Pro, better than this shoe. However, this isn't far off, and I just can't get my head around why we're paying so much money for these Western brands when we can get stuff like this for such an incredible price and such incredible performance package. Now, a lot of you will remember this shoe. This is heavier than the Challenger 5. This is the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3. This is one of my favourite ever racing shoes. This is the first racing shoe I ever podiumed a race in at the Severn Bridge Half Marathon. One of the best. Very grateful that Saucony sent me this one to test. I got over 200 miles in it. And despite the upper being different, because this is a very different style upper, slightly wider toe box fit, this is heavier than this shoe. The midsoles are very similar. The rocker geometries are very similar. Late stage rocker geometries, about the same aggression when they curl up at the end. In terms of the midsole, both of these are beaded PIBA midsole. This one does feel a bit denser than this one. This does feel a bit lighter in area, but I got a very similar sensation when I was running in this shoe, and it just flashed me back to running in the Pro 3. And quite honestly, that's extremely high praise, because as I said, the Pro 3 is a shoe that I know so many of you really enjoy. You've shared that with me on multiple videos on the channel, on Instagram and other places. The Pro 4, it just kind of got nerfed a little bit, sadly. The Pro 3 is so hard to get hold of now. This is a great option. It's lighter, as I said, and it just feels very similar. As I said, I'm going to say the midsole feels fantastic. It's not quite the level that we're seeing in the new super shoes, but I've just got to stop comparing it to the racing shoes. I haven't tried Li Ning's racing shoe. I've heard from a few people that have tried it. They say it is out of this world. I don't know why more people don't test it, and I'm just really curious to give that one a go now. I would absolutely spend my money on it, having now tested their Speed Day shoe, which quite honestly is one of the best that I've tried this year. It is right up there for a shoe of the year contender. It wouldn't quite take top spot, but it's definitely a top 3 in my opinion already. So I'd love to hear from you guys. Have you ever tried Li Ning running shoes? More recommendations from James comes in the form of the Red Hare 8, which I believe is their daily trainer. He says quite honestly, hands down, it is the best daily trainer that he's tried this year. He loves this shoe as well. I believe he's got the racing shoe. Not sure what his thoughts are on that. I definitely love to test it. I have heard from a few people that you have tested it as well after I posted on Instagram about this thing. So I'd love to hear from you guys if you've ever tested them. If you have, what models, how many miles have you got in them, and what are your thoughts on these shoes? On top of that, I've hopefully got another running shoe review dropping next week, so I'll keep you posted on that one. Might be later this week, I'm not sure yet. We'll see when they get delivered. Otherwise, I really appreciate your support on this one, guys. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you check out this one up here. This is where I took the Puma DV8 Nitro Elite 3 to 200 miles, so a good long-term review there. Or if you're interested in seeing what shoes I've used during my marathon training block, check out this one down here. You can see the full rotation there, and hopefully I'll see you guys over on one of those.